Greetings and welcome to In Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. After 22 years, Nigel and Marvin Lewis are a musical unit again. Now, the Kings of Instruction, they join us now to discuss that and the various platforms that you can access their music. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for making the time. Let me start off with you, please, Nigel. What are some of the reasons for leaving? Because we know that you've been outside of the country plying your trade.
I needed a different change in my life at one point because I was kind of spiraling and I needed to do something different. And I had set some goals for myself on the music scene. I accomplished those. And after I was kind of like a little bit bored, and I just decided to move away to make a different change. I need a different atmosphere. And then during my travels all over the world, I always said that if I ever have to leave Trinidad, I would settle in Miami. So that's where I'm at. So that was the reason. Me and Marvin had a little disagreement, but it wasn't nothing to say that we still wasn't brother and we still wasn't talking to one another. But we just, when you're young and you're in the business and sometimes you're not taking the time to learn certain things and to know certain things. As you get older, you get wiser, and then and the change has been made, and I just called Marvin and I say, hey, time to move again, and he was ready, so we on the thing again.
And with that, I want to get back to some of them goals that you're talking about, because you say you achieved them, but we'll talk about that in just a bit. And Marvin, I want to ask though, what is the difference between making a song or a piece of music, making content for a season versus making something that would have a much longer shelf life?
Well, I'm one of the people, good day to you and to everyone in Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension, the wider world. I'm one of the people that always says that culture is what sells. And I would think that is one of the things that would have been holding back our music, because we write for a season. And because we write for a season, we tend to write for a carnival or a party or just having a good time. Rather than the Calypsonian long time, back in the days, used to write more about what's happening within the society. So I think that used to echo and reverberate more with people, because culture is how we live, how we walk, how we talk, how we sleep, how we smile, how we angry. Every aspect of our life is our culture. That is what sells. So I always think that we always did ourselves a disservice by not dealing with the various aspects. So besides party, I love you, I hold on to walk down the road, you have birds singing in trees, you have rain falling, you have plenty of different things. So I think that is where the modern, where we are now, as opposed to the Calypsonian long ago, where he had a wide range of topics that he used to sing about. So I think that is kind of like the difference between where it was, where it is now. So when you're writing a song for me, and our formula, and Nigel knows, because he was the person that really started this formula, where we always write topics that people everywhere could understand. People everywhere could take in our culture through our eyes, but in a language that they could understand. Just simple things. So that is why we coin ourselves the kings of instruction.
And even before you reach instructions, I like the fact that you talk about being able to have so many topics and possibilities that you could just put music to, and even looking at the urge. Well, first of all, I want to know how much more chords you could have put in that tune. Make I think about 12. I see. but yeah, man, the man had fantasy tune. But also looking at the fact that you're able to open up yourself and be vulnerable like that, to say, okay, well, these are the feelings. I'm not feeling the most confident. How it is we doing, but at the same time, I'm trying. So just looking at that and that being almost like a perfect example of some of that you're saying, just opening up yourself to the possibilities and the sweetness of the music.
Back in the day, he lives out in Canada now, But when we compose, especially when Nigel compose, we go there with our melodies. We kind of know already this is how we want these things to be sounding, And from a pure musician point of view, it's not just when I sing a song and music is life, and it's like for one of the songs that that Nigel wrote this year. That's called the name of it is Breathe, and that's what we do. We breathe that. We breathe that. We breathe our music. We breathe that vibe, and we give it to you because we breathe it. You know? Yeah.
And looking at, I don't know if this ties into some of the goals that you would have accomplished, Nigel, but does music production make you look at the process of creating music a little differently now, or what has that influence had on your creative process?
Well, my creative process was always, I always think outside the box. I never pigeonhole myself to, okay, I'm just doing soca, calypso, reggae. I always try to push the bar higher and try to do different things at all times. The only person that actually saw that type of talent in me from back in the day was Roy Keith. So when me and Marvin came together in Roy Keith put the band in our hands and allowed us to experiment with the mixes and mixing song into song, how you deal with production of producing something that people will enjoy. And because we could look at a crowd and see when people come to party, they don't come for too much talk. They want to drink their alcohol, drink their rum, have a good time, and dance. And once you could do that, it makes the production very much easy. So when I'm writing a song or I'm building a rhythm, I always think about how would the people feel when they hear a certain type of rhythm. So like right now, the Afro beats is ruling the world. And with the Afrobeat, you cannot help but not dance. You have to dance. That is the same thing with our soca music. Our soca music is a happy type of music. The killer for us in our production, and I wouldn't say it's the production because the production has stepped up tremendously. But you see a lyrical content, if you only write for a certain type of topic and it doesn't go beyond the borders, then that's where it will stay. So when we write with a lasting thing. So like when I wrote the Urge on a plane. I was on a plane heading to New York when I started writing the Urge for Marvin. And by the time I got to New York, the Urge was already in process. When I got to the studio with Graham, we already knew what we were going to do. So it's different things. So coming up, so that when you listen to that guitar line, tung, tung, ti, tung, tung, ting, tung, tung, ting, ti, tung, tung, ti, it sounds like 20 chords, but really it's a 3 chord song. But we put some of that African vibe inside of it. If you go and listen to some of the Sukus music and the African music, the Haitian music and all that, you will realize that I took a little bit of everything, me and Graham Wilson, and added that in there to give it that kind of flavor. And from dancehall, of course.
And you say that and it make me want to talk about, let me not even talk about Hot and Groovy and the person that, the originator of that, who had his guitar on the pentatonic scale, name escaping me right about now. But at the same time, we continue this conversation. When we return, stay with us. We come back with more. We're speaking with Nigel and Marvin Lewis, rather. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are speaking with Nigel and Marvin Lewis. Really looking forward to the other half of this conversation. Now, in terms of bringing a formula together, then looking 22 years later, you would have grown as individuals. What are some of those things that remain the same? What are some of those things that have changed? And I'll start with you, please, Marvin.
Yeah, well, I'd rather start with me. Because, and I alluded to the fact that, when you're young, it's something that when we get older, we say, well, when I was younger, if I was thinking this way, or if I was thinking that way, but I guess all that is part what we call growth over time, because I could say safely that one of the things I never really given that full respect for was how intelligent he was with writing the type of songs that he was writing. And his artistry and genius for coming up with some of the topics and this stuff that he would be doing. I would say by extension, he never. I was the one that was always the methodical. He was always the spontaneous. We fully complement each other because we are brothers, same mother, same father. I want the people to understand that, right? He's 1 year older than I am. A lot of people think they are twins, right? But he's 1 year older than I am. But I've always been, yeah. I've always known I was kind of like the smooth, he was like rough, meaning that I would be singing the songs, he would be chanting the songs, right? He was the fella that could do some bam, come up with that thing like that. I could send a do something. I said, right, that day for my bam bam. Me, I would have to take more time, sit down, go inside of myself, think this is what I want to write, you know. He more spontaneous. I'm methodical. I would be the one that had the vision. I had also worked on Nigeria for a week for us to put on. Yeah, I was the one that came up with the bodysuit and the jock strap that we used to wear when we was in World Cape. And I can never forget the first time when I came to Nigeria, but you know, we didn't have Moving to the Left and on none of those songs yet because we joined World Cape in 94. So I said, Nigeria, you know what we could do? We could put on a bodysuit and a jock strap and bring that in Soca Nigeria, watch me. And of course, I can't say the word anything, right? And I just say, but it's no matter what. You mad people go see this and say that. But, you know, just as how he would be thinking ahead in terms of his music, I used to be thinking in terms ahead of our visual and shock value because I was always, we came into music at the time when the real bands was out there and things like the Callians and the Fireflies and the Chandeliers and the Song Revolutions. So we would have been under people like the Beaver Hendersons and the Robin Marshals and all these people and the Colin Lucases and them. So, you know, we would get that kind of basic grounding. You understand what I'm saying? To come forward now and then, I would have been in a band that was a band like Taxi that was kind of real electronic. And then I would have ended up in a band like Roy Cape now, where it was a band that used to back up Calypsonians. And Nigel and I brought them into the party. But it was also the education for us into seeing the real musicmanship of the people that play, the background players that play, and give them the respect that they deserve for the effort and the time that they put in making a lot of songs because it's every year. It's a kind of demand. It's not like other places in the world because we have we have the good things and the drawbacks. The good things is like things like we always have to be coming up with stuff which keeps our genius keep going and flowing. You understand? But it also shackles us into one aspect of our culture rather than dealing with all aspects. So we could have people like Andrew Tanka and all these other people long time that dealing with, you know, I went away, I leave and I come back home and all these kind of things. So when you hear you writing and more the reality that you write, people could feel. So that we cannot go on away from that and just concentrating now and just, okay, let me see how we could make them jump up and down rather than something that we will be written inside of the soul, which is what is a culture, you know? So I think over time, I think we developed that experience and we developed that true love for one another where, you know what happening, you know, we can't take for granted what we have because I know that we have something special because we fully complement each other and we just decide, you know, hey, now is the time. All that time that things happen, the Father does make it, so it's never our will, it is. So we back together now and we just loving that. And we want the world to know is a real thing. It's, you know, for us thing, it's a real thing.
Thank you so much. And I'll ask you your take on it, please, Nigel.
What was the question again? I was so caught up in Marvin.
And that's good too. But what are some of the ways that you think you've changed in terms of like your musical influences? Because I think even, and glad of speaking with both of you all, because the way that Marvin would have said that looking at this thing that the beast that feed in every years, it can incite creativity, it can also limit creativity. I heard that you'll also have some, I think it's country and western in the mix now too. So what are some of the ways that your music have changed?
Well, what I've done over the years as moving out, I realized when I moved from Trinidad and came to America, and this is before we had all the World Wide Web and all that kind of stuff, my eyes were open to a lot more music. Cuba, the Spanish music, the French music, Italian music, you just name it. There was different types of music that I was listening to, and I started listening to jazz, hip hop, rock and roll, country and western. And I'm listening inside of the music for that it factor. And I started realizing, wait a minute, you can try different things into the music that makes people want more of it. So my mindset started changing. I stopped thinking carnival. And I'm only doing this for Carnival, and it's Carnival time. And that's another thing with us too. Carnival, every year we are the only people I know that every year we have to come up with new music for Carnival. You could do a full album. Now that album will have like 6 or 7 great songs on it. And because we use 2 out of those great songs for the season, we throw away the rest. And not realizing that the next year we could use that go back to the album and pull off those other good songs. And we are the only people that do that. which I think we need to stop doing that. If you do a good album, your album should be able to give you 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 good hit songs as the year goes by. That's why some artists take a while before they come out with another album on this side of the world, on in America and Europe and stuff. They don't do one album a year. We do that kind of stuff, and we need to stop that because that, even though it might be good, is also a bad thing, which is where we were asking our question about the creativity and the good and the bad. It can be a good thing at some point, and sometimes it can be a bad. But as for the music, I am very proud of how our music has evolved on the whole. And I'm talking not only talking about from Trinidad. I listen to music in Barbados and Grenada, St. Vincent, all of those. And I realized that we have spent quality time working on the music, on the art form of bringing this music together, that when we go out in the world and we look at it, people could say, hey, this is something fresh. I like this. This is what's happening with the Afrobeat. And I keep saying, soca have next, soca got next. We next now. If we change some of the writing with when we write some of our lyrical content and start thinking more on the international thing. One song that I could say could cross over and become a huge international hit for me is that song from what the girl name is, Drink Water and Mind My Business. That is so international that I see that song could actually make a niche on the Billboard chart if the proper marketing is done and put the proper video and all that something in place, and then you market that song properly. That is just one of the songs that I could see could cross over. Another great writer for me, a great musician for me, is MX Prime, Bunji Garlin. Them guys, they have something that is totally different that makes you want to perk up your ears and listen and say, this is something fresh, this is something new. Once we do that kind of stuff and continue writing like that, we could go anywhere. The music will go far and wide.
And it's interesting because sometimes all it needs is just a moment, and you never know what that moment might be. It might be this, Correct. It might be this individual singing some of your songs, as part of your song, and doing a movement, which we've had with Patrice Roberts in terms of Drink Water and Mind Your Business. At a point in time, that was a viral movement. But I say that to say there's a moment that has come up with the left-right challenge. Tell me a little bit about that, please, Mr. Marvin.
You need to follow the leader.
But listen, somebody just sent this thing on my phone, and I saw like somebody doing a challenge, and then I got another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and another one, and another one. Too much to keep up, right? And then I even saw Jason Derulo doing one. I said, boy, and every time I got one, of course, I sent it to Nigel. Nigel would send ones to me. You know what I mean? That's to show you exactly what we're talking about, the international appeal of writing something that everybody could take and do something with. I mean, that song was done in what, 1997?
1997. Follow the leader, 1997.
Yeah, 1997. Yeah. Sorry, 1997. You understand? Look, how much years later, and it's still irrelevant today just because of the change of lyrics. You understand? Who let the dogs out? You understand? Yeah. And I could when you look at the songs that do it out there, right? Because moving to the left was bigger in the Caribbean market. Follow the leader was bigger on the international market, and it's not that moving to it's very big on the international market. But it just goes to show when you hear writing, once people could understand exactly where you're dealing with, So it's a big thing on the internet right now.
Yeah, it's a viral sensation. Yeah, it's a viral sensation with Follow the Leader right now. And a lot of people thinking that Follow the Leader is the Soca Boys, but the version that they're listening to is the Soca Boys version. But that is actually the original song is actually Nigel and Marvin Lewis. We are the originators of that.
And I hope that all you're organizing all this stuff properly for that Drunk or Sober Mind Your Business.
I've been organized from way back when, so that is not going to be an issue whatsoever.
All right, Mommy say a word to the wise is sufficient. But we want to thank you very much, gentlemen. Nigel and Marvin Lewis going from strength to strength 22 years later is a blessing to be able to do it and make that reconnection. And we want to thank you for your time, as well as on behalf of the entire TTT News team. I'm Dike Rostant. This has been In Depth. Thank you for joining us.